Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Solar Sidekicks. My name is Pat Southwell. I'm coming to you here from Radio Carrum, community radio station at Roy Dore Reserve in Carrum. Thanks again, everyone, for all the feedback on the socials we've had from the last episode. The last episode was episode 7 with Layla Playmore from Selectronic. Some great feedback and very insightful conversations about what's happening at Selectronic and in the industry. And thanks again, Layla, for spending the time with me in the studio last week and for making the journey out to Carrum. Really appreciate that. I don't think there's too much to tidy up from last week's episode, so let's get straight into our guest for this episode of episode 8. So today, coming in, we have David Pethick from Omnidian. So thanks very much to making your way to Carrum. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us on.
No worries at all. Thanks so much for coming. So Omnidian, you are the VP, General Manager. Is that correct?
I have multiple titles, but let's just go with GM.
GM, General Manager at Omnidian. All right, very good. And you've been in the energy industry for a while. Yeah.
25 years. It's a little bit scary when you say it out loud.
25 years, yeah. I know. It seems like 2000 wasn't that far.
I know.
Long ago. Maybe that just means we're getting a bit old.
I hear the kids talk about the 90s and I realise they're talking about ancient history and it's like, I remember the 90s pretty well.
Yeah, me too. I know. It's a little bit like that these days, unfortunately, but yeah, they were good times. Anyway, I'm interested in your journey. We're going to have a little bit of a chat about your career, how you've come into the role you're in now. I also want to talk about the organisation you're working for. And there's a lot of stuff that I think we agree on a lot of things about what should and shouldn't happen in the industry. Maybe the way we get there, we might disagree on a couple of things, I reckon. But I want to have a few healthy discussions about that because everyone just always listens to me bang on about mandatory inspections. And I can see there's different views as well. And I really want to drill down into some of that discussion with you. I think it'd be really interesting. It'd be really good.
Fantastic.
For everyone. So let's have a little discussion about your career, but let's go with the obligatory question first. In the solar industry, are you a solar superhero or a solar sidekick? Where do you fit in, David?
We are very firmly and we are a solar sidekick. I'm looking forward to listening to the program and hearing somebody describe themselves as a solar hero. It'll happen one day, but no, we're sidekicks.
Sidekicks, yeah, fair enough. Look, yeah, I don't know, maybe I've got to reframe the question somehow because, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to see someone actually standing up and saying that.
For us, it was actually a very easy one because, what we do, helping solar retailers and OEMs with post-installation support.
Yeah.
That is almost by definition, the sidekick role. We are the Robin to solar retailers Batman. And
good one.
They're very much the heroes of our story and helping them and helping their customers to get the most out of their solar system.
Yeah.
That's our role. We like to be behind the scenes. We like to be the people that come in and, clean up the mess. But we're definitely not the heroes.
Fair enough. Look, I think I think it's good you've actually just justified it and not just gone with, being so humble and, you've actually justified your answer. So I'm going to pay that one. That's very good. Any future guests coming on, make sure you think about that one. Because I'm gonna be finding out. I'm gonna try and work out why people think they're not superheroes. Because I think we've all got a bit of superhero in us. We're all in the solar industry, and it's a tough industry. So, all right, well answered on that one. Now, I sent out to get a bit of information about you. I don't really know you that well. We've met a couple of times. We shared a panel together in Brisbane, which we'll have a little bit of a chat about too. First thing that jumped out to me when I wanted to know more about you started your career as a scientist working for NASA back in 2000. Yes. Can you please? I've been hanging out all week to know what that's about. Can you just tell us a little bit? I don't know. Maybe you signed an NDA with NASA. I don't know.
No.
Are the Russian spies going to come after you or anything like that? Or I don't know. Where do you? What did you do at NASA?
So you've actually got to go back a little bit further than that. I don't know how many people here remember the mid '90s, but I finished my undergraduate at university in physics, and there were not a lot of jobs available. So
recession.
Yep. So I got a scholarship, a grand total. I remember it to this day: $18,100 tax free.
Yep.
Per year to go and do a PhD, and that to me was enough to pay for my rent, enough to pay for my beer, and enough to pay for a golf club membership. So I thought it was
That's
fantastic.
Not bad.
Yeah,
Sounds like a pretty good life, actually.
So went ahead and did a PhD, and then finished that, and needed to get a job, and through the course of that work, had gotten to know some of the people at NASA, and headed over there, and was doing some interesting work, but ultimately I realised pretty quickly, wow, I don't think I want to be a research scientist for the next 20 years. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do with these qualifications? And luckily at that time in the US, the energy industry was just starting to go through its first boom and deregulation. And I got approached by a commodities trading company called Entergy Coke Trading. Entergy is a large utility in the US.
Yep.
Coke Industries is owned by the some would say infamous Koch brothers, and they thought that my skills could be helpful to them in trying to work out when were gas prices going to go high or low, power prices high or low, that sort of thing. So joined that business and went to the UK and helped to set up the operations there, and really enjoyed that in my sort of mid to late 20s. It was a lot of fun to spend that time working in that industry and really getting an understanding about the way that risk is managed in the energy industry.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Is it quite similar over there? I suppose the US and the UK. If you could sort of summarise it, like the energy market here is quite complex.
Yeah, they're all complex. They're all a little bit unique. Australia is one of the few jurisdictions where we break up the poles and wires businesses from the generation or the retail business. Usually it's in one of those two.
Is it like the old SEC in other places, is it?
Yeah, a little bit more so.
Yeah, okay.
But ultimately at the wholesale end of things, they're all quite similar. People are just trying to understand what the risks are associated with the supply of electricity or natural gas, and how those markets intermingle. And I suppose my skills were useful there, but I got to a point in my career where I had a big bank of screens, 6 monitors in front of me, and all
sounds like you were still at NASA.
Yeah, it was a little bit. Yeah, it was a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
But you get down to a point where all you care about is whether one number goes up and another number goes down, and that was a bit boring. So I thought, well, I'm going to go and try something different, and took a role at Origin Energy, and my first sort of corporate job, and I really enjoyed that. Origin is and was a relatively young company. It had been spun out of Boral. A lot of great people there, and are still there today. I think it's a testament to that business that so many of the people that I worked with that all those years ago are still there and leading the business. I learned a lot about stakeholder management and how you have to operate a business unit within a larger corporate environment. And I enjoyed my time there, but me being me, after about 7 years, I got pretty bored and decided to go and do some stuff in startup land and work with some smart metering companies and some startups. And you could just start to see the energy transition beginning to happen. This is back at about 2015 or so.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun that time. And then I got tapped on the shoulder to go and first of all help AGL to fix their C&I business.
Yep.
But then very quickly after that, an opportunity opened up where they had a relatively small corporate venture capital operation. So this was making investments in startups, scale-ups, and funds that were all working in the energy transition. The theory being that what we would learn by engaging with that end of the market would really help AGL in developing its strategy and how to manage and take advantage of the energy transition.
Yep.
So I did that for 2.5 years, and I absolutely loved it. The chance to speak to very smart people who were taking risk, who were investing capital, how they see
normally are they in overseas investors?
Yes, yeah. The vast majority of the people that I spoke to were either in North America or Europe.
Yeah, okay.
So I've met some long days.
Yeah, I can imagine. You'd be on New York, San Francisco time, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, US in the morning, Europe in the evening.
Yeah, nightmare.
My wife is very forgiving.
She'd have to be.
Yeah. And, at that stage, 20 plus years into your career, that opportunity to speak to people and be learning every day.
Yeah.
I just loved it, I absolutely loved it. Anyway, one of the companies that I met through that, we considered investing in them when I was at AGL was Omnidian. I really loved the sound of what they were doing. The co-founders were very switched on.
Yep.
Eventually, things aligned and we came to an arrangement where rather than AGL investing in Omnidian, I decided to join Omnidian and started as employee number one here in Australia.
I did see that. I saw you were the first one.
Yeah.
Are you able to give us a little bit of background on Omnidian? So, I've had a bit of a look around. Do you want to, I think there's a lot of people who probably don't know what you guys do. So, do you want to just give us your 100-word spiel or whatever it is?
Sure.
What do you?
So the company was founded back in 2016 in Seattle
by
Mark, Ray, and David, the co-founders. They had identified they were all solar OGs. They'd been around the industry for since the inception in the US, and they had identified that there was a gap there. Post installation, nobody was really helping customers if there was a problem, and they could see that this was a part of the industry that was going to be well suited to economies of scale. If you could have hundreds of thousands or millions of assets under management, then what appeared to be, a relatively small number of problems, there's a big business there in dealing with a small number of problems on a large portfolio of assets.
What year are we talking about here? When was that?
2016.
2016, yeah. And you're talking, and this is US, is that right?
This is in the US, so they're talking about solar edge and end phase systems.
Yeah. A lot of rapid shutdown sort of stuff they've got. Yeah, so is it... Probably there's not a huge rooftop market. I know it's getting bigger now in the US, but it probably wasn't back then. Is that
definitely
fair to say?
No.
Hardly anything.
They've only just overtaken us in terms of
I think I saw that last week. Yeah, 5 million systems or something. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, about that number. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's 350 million people in America, and we've got 28 million here.
Australia punches above its weight. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, interesting.
So they're a relatively late adopter.
Yep.
And it's for the same reasons that solar gets held back in any market. When energy costs are relatively low, when you've got utilities who are paid on a regulated asset base, they push back against distributed energy assets.
Yep.
There's a few barriers, but ultimately the technology is so compelling to put that sort of small scale generation behind the meter.
Yep.
Economically, it just makes sense. So, our view is that whilst Australia is very much a postcard from the future for many parts of the world, we will eventually see deep penetration of rooftop solar in both residential and commercial applications globally.
Yeah, even with those steep roofs in America, even with those bitumen nightmare roofs that I can see on. I watch a movie or something and I look at it and go, this is how much of a solar nerd I am. I look at it and go, geez, that would be very difficult to have solar on. And
there may be fewer roofs, but there's plenty of parts of the US that don't have that snow load that require the steep pitch roofs that you're talking about.
Yeah. So So you think penetration worldwide is going to basically catch up to Australia? Is that what you reckon?
Look, obviously, the closer you are to this sort of a climate where you don't have snow, then you've got more roofs that you can put it on. But the idea of distributed generation behind the meter that is economically compelling, and then I think as well. In the storage markets, you have both the resilience requirement, but also the independence desire that customers have. So, I'm pretty confident that the trend of decentralisation of energy assets will continue globally.
Oh, come on. Don't we want more nuclear? Isn't that what we want? Surely we want more nuclear and then we can... Maybe we could all have nuclear power reactors on our roof.
Yeah, no.
and then it's all behind the meter.
There was a company going around that I will not name that was pretty keen on hydrogen storage in homes, and I was just like, I don't know if that's going to work, but yeah, nuke. We'll
leave that one.
Yeah, let's come back to that one in 15 or 20 years and see how they're going.
Yeah, well, let's leave that one alone. Yeah, okay.
So what we do, so I feel like I haven't answered the question. So what we do is we take our technology to monitor systems. We don't use any hardware. We just take the inverter feed. We take the many millions of messages that those inverters produce, and we clean them, we filter out the noise, and we ultimately get down to, okay, this is the inverter self-reporting that it might have this issue.
Yep.
We also build a digital twin of every system, and we have a few 100,000 assets under management in the US. We have about 30,000 assets under management here in Australia today. We also build a digital twin of each of those systems so that we can take a look at the production profile and compare that to what it should be. We take allowances of if there's a battery system as well, because obviously that changes the net production. Those two things combined allow us to basically put every system into one of three buckets.
Yep.
Green bucket, the system says that it's working and working well. Red bucket, system says that it's broken and it needs a fix. Yellow bucket, the computer's not sure. It thinks that there might be a problem, but it needs a set of human eyes over it.
Yep.
Now, what's really powerful about the way we approach this is the machine is always learning. So when that human takes a look at that particular system, looks at the profile data, looks at the error messages, their job is to put it in either the red bucket or the green bucket.
Yep.
If it goes into the red bucket, the system hopefully next time will be a little bit more capable and a little bit more competent in being able to identify, okay, this system has a fault.
Sure. Do they ever keep it in the yellow bucket?
And look, our worst case scenario is it stays in the yellow bucket.
You don't want yellow buckets, do you?
No, we don't, because that one we're unsure if there's a problem or not.
Yep.
And our job is to proactively identify these faults and act upon them.
Yeah.
You know, we like to try and resolve them remotely when we can, because that's a lot cheaper than rolling a truck. Sending a technician to site not only has a high cost, it has a high opportunity cost. Every time you're sending a technician, of course, to go and do a Wi-Fi reconnection, number one, they're more valuable to any business owner installing a system than they are doing a Wi-Fi reconnection.
Yep.
And then secondly, you run the risk of, if you think that is free, I'm just going to send them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon after they've been climbing around on a roof doing an installation in the morning. They might do it, but they're probably not going to be happy about it. So you run another risk in your business when you misuse those valuable resources. So we identify the problems, we diagnose them, we do everything we can to remotely fix them. If we can't remotely fix them, and we send one of our field service partners to site to complete the fix. Then at the back end, we work with the OEMs, the original installer. Sometimes these issues might be under a warranty, either the product warranty or the installation workmanship warranty.
Yep.
We also work with the homeowner. Sometimes it might not be a warrantable issue. It might be something that the homeowner themselves has caused. A simple one being they changed the password on the Wi-Fi router and now they can't reconnect their inverter.
So it's going to be multiple stakeholders that you're going to have to be dealing with your business.
That's right. But that's what we do. We ultimately, if we've learned a few things through this journey. Yeah. The first is that if you have empathy, that's a really good starting point, because a lot of the time we're speaking to somebody, they have invested a lot of time and money in choosing, who's going to provide their system.
Sure.
They've put their trust and their faith in them. You have to listen to what they're saying and let them know that, okay, we're here to help you to fix this problem and we're on your side.
Yep.
You then need to earn their trust, and you do that by demonstrating your expertise. Yep. And that's where we have, the people that in our operations team, they are experts in solar systems and storage systems. We empower them with our technology to help them to do their work, to the highest possible quality and as quickly as possible. Yep. But ultimately, our operations team, they are experts in the field, and they will quickly work out what the problem is and what needs to be done to fix it.
Yeah.
And then we execute on that promise. We keep on telling the customer, we keep our stakeholders informed. This is what the problem is. This is what we're doing to fix it. this is what we've done. Now it's fixed. If you're proactive in that journey, so rather than waiting for the homeowner to identify after they've gotten a few high electricity bills.
Yeah, that's the worst, isn't it? When they get the bill shock, and then because then they're angry as well.
They're angry, they're disappointed, they feel betrayed, quite frankly, sometimes.
They think solar's a load of rubbish.
Yep.
I've heard it all, but
it's not good. But instead, so we take what could be a 1-star Google review, absolutely demolishing the company that installed the system for them. We instead contact them. We're saying, hey, we're contacting you. We work with Acme Solar. I always use Acme Solar. I have no idea. Is there a real Acme Solar?
You know what? I actually think there is.
Okay. So, disclaimer, Acme Solar is not a client, but I'm using them as an example.
Pretty sure. So I used to work for SolarGain, right? And when I did service and warranties for SolarGain, I reckon Acme used to do installations for SolarGain. and at a pretty high volume too. I'm talking about pre-2014. So
I'm going to have to come up with a new placeholder name.
Surely you can't trademark. No one can trademark Acme. Like that, I mean, for them to even have that as their business name. You know, when I think Acme, I'm thinking of like Wile E. Coyote and
exactly.
Roadrunner and Dynamite.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, we contact the customer proactively. We let them know what the problem is, what we're doing to fix it, and then we fix it.
Yep.
That turns what could have been that 1-star review into a 5-star review.
Of course, and I think that's a huge thing about every company or if you're in the service industry, things are going to go wrong. There's no doubt about it. But it's how you can turn those clients around.
That's right.
That can really make or break your business.
Yeah.
Because every company's going to get some sort of 1-star review. You're going to get someone who's either had a bad day or whatever. You might get a 1-star review and you haven't even done anything wrong.
Yeah.
So how you turn that around, I think that's a really good way to look at things.
Yeah.
Just a question, so have you guys? Is there anyone else doing this in Australia at the moment? Have you got any competitors at the moment?
I suppose when we talk to people about the way that they're providing service, there's a few different models.
Yeah, that's what it seems to me. It seems like no one's doing this exact model, but you've worked out a package, I suppose, or an offering.
That's right.
Which you see there's a gap in the market.
That's right.
Yeah.
So generally, it's probably easiest to talk about it in terms of the journey that a solar retailer goes through.
Yep.
When they're starting out and where service problems first emerge. So you start off, you do your first, year of operations. You've been out there every day. You've done 300-400 installations after a little while. And quite frankly, solar is power electronics. If you're picking good equipment and you're doing a good job, you might get the very odd phone call, more just a query, people not quite understanding how to use this new thing.
Yep.
But generally, you don't have too many problems occurring. Great. Tick along like that for a few years. Now you've got several thousand assets that you've installed. And now you've got a sales team and they're regularly getting calls from their recent customers. Not quite sure, can't work out the app. Is this thing working properly? Your sales guy is thinking, man, I've really got to get back to...
I want to sell.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to get back to this hot lead.
I'll
deal with that later on.
Yeah, not here to do this.
Yeah.
I'm here to sell.
Yep. Eventually, somebody sticks their hand up, and before they know it, they are the service person.
It's exactly what happens.
Yeah. The problem with that is there's not much of a career path there. They're just spending all their day, dealing with frustrated customers, not quite sure, don't necessarily have the expertise, but they at least, can, send them the, instructions about how to reconnect the Wi-Fi and do an AC/DC reset and schedule appointments for the installers to go to their site when they can't work it out themselves and try and work out what the problem is. It's a reasonable temporary solution, but it ultimately is, when I ask business owners who are at that stage, what's the best part of your business? They're always proud of their installations. What's the worst part of your business? Generally, they're not going to say it's terrible, but they're not. The least good part of their business is what they do to support their existing customers.
Yeah. I can understand that.
As a business grows, it gets bigger, it may have a dedicated service department.
Service crews are pretty common now for anyone who's like a small to medium business. They're going to pretty much have a service crew.
Yep. And look, I mean, I think that they view it as a cost centre. I think that they understand that, gee whiz, I wish that I didn't have to do this sort of work. particularly once they get into commercial. As
Yeah.
people move, into, they might start out residential, then they start doing some
Getting
commercial
larger 30 kilowatts higher. Yeah.
Yep. Now, it's becoming really expensive. The opportunity cost is really high. We have seen some businesses that have got a lot of assets in the field who have outsourced their level 1, level 2 support. Unfortunately, too often they have outsourced it to a call center in the Philippines.
Yep.
That works about as well as you would expect it to. They can create tickets, they can capture information, but they can't solve problems.
Yep.
And they can follow very basic processes, but they are not solar experts.
Yep.
I would caution anybody who is dealing with a large volume of service calls, before you consider outsourcing it to a call center type operation, please give us a call. Let us show you what we can do.
Look, I'm not usually one for sales pitches, right? But that's a good one, and I think that's really helpful.
Yeah,
It's
we position ourselves as a partner for growth.
Yeah,
it's necessary. We are now dealing with customers. It's no longer a one and done transaction. When you're installing a solar system, you are hopefully setting up a system that is ready for a battery, either now or in the near future. That customer will be considering an EV charger at some point in time. They'll be considering a heat pump. They're going to be considering all sorts of home electrification opportunities.
Yep.
When they have a query about one of the assets that you have already installed in their home, you want to continue. You want to use that as an opportunity to build upon your existing relationship with the customer. So really, I think our competition today and in the future will always be a question of, do you want to build this competency internally, and do you want to invest in that function inside your own team and your own business, or do you want to outsource it to Omnidian because we do this at scale? I can give you a simple example. We always have a laugh when we're talking about Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
reconnections.
Everyone does. Yeah,
it's a large portion of the inbound service calls that are a pain in the ass.
Yep.
Our business, we will deal with many thousands of Wi-Fi reconnections over the course of a year. That means that I have the luxury of being able to invest in our people, in our systems, in our processes, so that we can do that as efficiently as we possibly can. We want that to be an excellent experience. We never want to send a technician to site. I don't care if the customer is 84 years old and doesn't even know what a router looks like. We think that it's worth spending the time building our processes the way that we deliver that service, so that we can help the 84-year-old get her inverter reconnected and be able to see the output on the app, because we can do it over the phone with her in an hour on the day that she's got the concern, as opposed to arranging for a technician to attend site at a cost 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, and also they've got to travel. Yeah, they've got to travel out there.
Yeah.
Probably like you mentioned before, get a little annoyed because it's a Wi-Fi password.
Yeah. Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And it's an experience for everyone, which is not as positive. You can fix it quickly.
This is all we do. We don't sell. We don't install. That focus.
Yeah,
that in itself is what our superpower is. This is all we do, so we have to do it to a great level.
Yep.
I'm a terrible salesman. For me, I want to be, offering something which is better and lower cost than the alternatives, because that's something that's relatively easy for every business owner to consider.
Okay, very good. All right, well, David, I think we've got to our first word from our sponsors, so we'll cut to our first ad break in a minute. When we come back, I think there's a lot to unpack with you. So I know you've mentioned a lot about the potential industry reputation being at risk from some of the things that you see and that are out in the field, which is of course going to lead to talking about inspections. That's my favorite topic. But I also want to talk about how you believe there's a rising expectation from the clients who have got solar. So I'm really interested to talk about those topics. So we'll go to the first word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back in just a few moments. Okay, and we're back. Thank you very much to our sponsors from Radio Caram. We really appreciate everything you do. and things wouldn't be able to run as smoothly as they do without your sponsorship and your support. So thank you very much to all of you. All right, David, we've had a little bit of a break now. Still got a lot to unpack here. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Omnidian's expanding operations at the moment in Australia and where you're at the moment?
Sure. So Australia's our only international expansion. North American company, 230 people over there.
Yep.
Here in Australia, we're 9 people at the moment. As we mentioned at the start, I was employee number 1, and the way that we started was, okay, well, CEO set me a pretty hard target. He said, go and find a client, somebody that can pay the bills, and then hire a team. We were very fortunate at the time. Wilf Johnston from Enphase at the time gave me a call, and he says, hey, have you seen that Infinite Energy is shutting up shop? You should give them a call. So thank you, Wilf. I did, and we did a deal where not only did we take over the warranty obligations and customer service obligations for those customers, but they had a fantastic internal service team. So Steve Spring, Shay, Govinda, and a few other people, came on board.
So they came from there, did they?
They did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And that was the starting point for us. So we had a client, we had some revenue, and we had some operations capability. Since then, we have added some more clients. We've added an OEM. We have added a few more staff. Lorraine, who is sitting here in the back corner trying to stay out of the camera view. She just joined recently as our growth manager.
Yep.
So, all up together now we're at 9 people here in Melbourne and in Perth, and we'll be adding people on the East Coast over the coming weeks and months. In doing that, we're adding new clients, people who are helping us to refine our service offerings, who are helping us to grow the business in the right direction. In doing that, we've got some outstanding advisors on board.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So Andy McCarthy, Keisha Narono, and Warwick Johnston.
There's some pretty heavy hitters you're talking about there, all 3 of them.
I aimed high. Not being a solar guy, I realised, wow, this is going to be a hard journey on my own.
Yep.
I understand the benefit of people that have been there, have done it. But I also didn't want people who would be in any way having to manage a conflict of interest. So I needed to really thread the needle there.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate. They all agreed to come on board. They all bring their own unique skills to the table. So Andy's obviously been there, done that with Gippsland Solar and RACV.
Yep.
Keisha coming from Fronius. Fronius has got an outstanding internal support team. I don't think anybody who installs Fronius gear will know that. If you ever need any help, they've done a brilliant job in investing in that part of their onshore operations so that they can work with installers to help them. And Warwick, obviously, nobody knows the numbers in the Australian solar industry better than Warwick. Sunwiz is a fantastic company. They do a lot of good work. And, the conversations that we have at our advisory board meetings, we've got one coming up next Friday that I'm really looking forward to. I walk away from those just blown away at how much I learn from being a part of those conversations, and the guidance that they've offered us has been outstanding. Yeah,
that's years of experience, and experience at a really high level. So I've actually had little bits and pieces to do with all 3 of those people. Not that much,
yep.
Just stuff I've done, whether it's at the CEC or just a few other little things. All exceptional people, outstanding characters.
Yep.
And I would say integrity would be something that they would have, wear that as a bit of a chest pin, I reckon, all 3 of them. And I think you're on a really, really good thing there.
It was a lot of work went into telling them our story, and I wasn't very good at it at the time, so it took some time to explain who we are and what we do and how we want to help the industry. once they got it,
Yeah.
I think they all said, yeah, okay, this is aligned with their values as well.
Correct. I think they would want our industry to go in a direction that is in a positive one, and I think that's probably what we all want to see. So yeah, the three of those people, congratulations to with your positions on the board. So that's really great. Where do we want to go? Where do you reckon we want to go as an industry? Like we do have sometimes a little bit of a, potentially we've got a bad reputation with installers who are a bit unscrupulous, not doing the right thing. We were just, I suppose, having a quick discussion in the break before about, you see some of the systems where installer hasn't even bothered to connect the Wi-Fi, connect the monitoring and all those, and that's only really just the start of it. You're seeing systems that are done non-compliantly. What do you reckon about all that? Where are we at? You reckon? Where do we need to get to? What's your vision?
So, I suppose over the last few years, I've gone to all of the industry shows. I've had a lot of conversations, and a common theme is it's the cowboys in the industry, the large volume players who do 100% subcontracting of their installations. Who, quite frankly, in an earlier phase of this industry would get to a certain point and then they would phoenix and not have to fulfill any of their ongoing obligations. Everybody always bemoans them. They want them out of the industry, but too much of the conversation is about how do we compete on price, and the reality is you can't compete on price with somebody who is determined to undercut the market and don't care if they make no money or very little money on the transaction. It's about changing attitudes in the industry, and that actually starts with customers. We have to educate customers about what are reasonable expectations to have about a solar or a solar and battery system. So I'll pick on a couple of areas in particular. I strongly dislike OEM apps. I do not like the idea of a customer pulling out their phone and checking the performance of their system every day. Anyone who's been around the industry for a little while understands that they might do it for a week, they might do it for a month, they're not going to do it for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and yet we're talking about assets that have got, lifetimes of a decade or more.
Yeah. So, but is that the apps?
The reason I dislike the app is because
why do you dislike the app?
It's taking something that should be an obligation. For the person who has provided the asset to ensure that its performance is being maintained. People aren't buying kilowatts. They're not buying panels to go on their roof. They're buying kilowatt hours over the next decade. Our strong belief is that every system should be professionally monitored. It should be monitored 24/7. It should be monitored by a machine, not by a human watching, all of the different OEM portals and trying to pick out the errors. Ultimately, we think that, if something has gone wrong with a system, it should set off a little red light back at HQ and somebody should start to act on that. So I don't like apps because they displace the performance management away from the person that sold and installed the system and is an expert in that system onto a homeowner. Now, that might sound a little bit controversial when I'm talking about solar systems.
I can see why you say that, but I don't think it is. I can see why you say that. That makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying.
When we think about battery systems, and we're talking about battery attachment rates, when I talk to our clients, they're talking about battery attachment rates of 40% plus now.
So you mean when there's solar installed, when they get batteries installed at the same time?
That's right.
Yeah, cool. Yep.
Asking a homeowner to monitor a $20,000 asset that has just been installed, that is a pretty complex piece of kit. That is a fool's paradise to say, now it's all in your hands, you take care of it. You have to provide post-installation support and service. And that comes down first and foremost to that asset management function. Is the asset functioning as we would expect? And if not, what are we going to do to fix it?
So it's probably all good for a retired engineer who's got the time to look at this stuff, understands it as well, But unless they're in that space, you go back to your 84-year-old person who's not really understanding anything.
No,
they can't be expected to.
No, absolutely not.
Monitor their system and make sure it's working correctly.
That's right. And when we're talking about solar, we're in the late adopter phase of the market.
Yep.
Even with storage, we're starting to get past the retired engineers, the early adopters, and we're getting into the mass market now. So, I'm a really strong believer that first and foremost, educate consumers to expect an asset management service to be delivered by their solar retailer or their solar retailer and a partner. And then there's a second issue that I see in the industry when people think that they have to compete with the cowboys. Is that's okay. We will only sell premium equipment, and we will only and we will offer 10, 15, 20-year warranties on that installation. That'll give everybody comfort. Well, some of the dodgiest operators out there are offering really long warranty periods with no expectation that they're ever going to honour it. But they just say what they need to say to close the sale.
I think you've nailed exactly. Like that's the biggest, I think, problem in the industry at the moment, that the companies that are got no intention of being around in 10 years, 5 years even.
Yeah.
They're going to Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really is a problem.
Yeah.
How do we change that? What do you reckon? Like,
look, I think first and foremost, we can spot them a mile away.
Yeah, I know. I reckon I can too. Like I can see them.
Yeah. Helping prospective customers to identify. I mean, we joke at every conference. We all joke about. Can I say this? Yeah, I'm going to say it. Everyone says.
Just say it. We can edit it out if it's
okay.
not good.
Sure. Yeah. If you're buying your solar system from somebody who is using a retired Australian cricketer to market the system,
I don't think that's controversial at all. That's common knowledge, isn't it? Isn't that common knowledge?
Tread cautiously. Oh, I would never take them on as clients anyway. But
I actually feel bad. Right, this is my cricket club here. I play cricket at Carrum.
Yep.
Me being a park cricketer, I feel bad that I play cricket, and these are the legends I looked up to as a kid. And they're all over social media. They're all over the TV.
Yeah.
Saying all this stuff, and I'm just like, I used to like you. Like, I thought you were a decent person. Like, now look, what are you doing? You got no idea. You're just taking a bucket of money.
Yeah.
Because people, for some reason, trust cricketers. Yeah. Well, I don't think they do as much anymore. But
no. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Ask that next level of questions.
Yep.
Do you monitor the system? What happens if something goes wrong?
Yep.
I want to see the written warranty. Too often there's an issue, there's an opportunity and an issue here in our industry.
Yeah.
For the love of God, either use a pro forma a whole system warranty, which used to be provided by the CEC. I'm not sure if SAA is going to provide a similar pro forma warranty.
What do you mean, like the where the code of conduct, where it was?
No, I'm talking about. So there was
the document.
The document that says, okay, these are our obligations to you. You've just bought a
solar
system from us.
CEC still got it.
Yeah.
I think. It's just a template, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a template.
I think they've still got it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Use it. Set on 5 years, I would suggest, or 10 years at the most, in terms of this is for how long we are going to warranty the performance of this system, and if something goes wrong with it, we're going to step in and we're going to fix it.
Hang on, are you trying to tell me 40 years is too long for a warranty?
I feel like it might be, yeah. When I compare it to a car, for example.
Yeah. No, you're right. I understand.
And the fact that there might be a product warranty there for the panels for 25 years. If you or your salespeople are out there referencing that and giving the prospective customer the sense that, okay, good, this system's covered for 25 years. Well, under Australian consumer law, you just took on not only that obligation under the product warranty, but all of the obligations. So you're not going to be able to charge them for labour. You're not going to be able to say, they're no longer operating and I can't make a claim under that warranty, so therefore you can't either. Sure, give them the product warranties, give them all of the documentation, but you, as a solar retailer and installer, you have to have your own warranty because you are the first line of defence, quite frankly, under Australian consumer law for if something goes wrong with the system, go back to the person you bought it from and get them to fix it. So be cautious about in your sales process over-promising on warranties, over-promising on the specifications of the equipment, giving customers the implication that you're delivering services that you may not be.
Yeah.
You have to be really honest and scrupulous about what your business does, and then explain why that's enough. This is what you can expect. This is what we're going to do. And here are the hundreds or the thousands of positive reviews and referrals that we've got from our existing customers.
Yeah.
If you run a good business, don't try and compete with the cowboys. Don't try and outdo them on, the promises that you make, because they will always do it. But be a business that does stand behind those promises, and you will be successful over the medium term.
So do you reckon this is so you mentioned one of the parts of it is consumer education. It's kind of hard, isn't it? Because you do have these people with the big marketing budgets that are just flooding everything and, marketing their product based on price. I don't know. Does that mean the bucket's not really there? The pool's not really there of customers?
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I think the MBAs, they call it the total addressable market.
Yeah.
Or the serviceable addressable market, actually going down one step further. It might be a bit smaller than we think.
Maybe it is.
What's that old saying? Australians love to buy solar twice.
It's true. Well, it's true. Well, I mean, because I do see, I see systems that I've inspected, and some of the really good systems I see are those bottom dollar systems. It's chook lotto whether you're going to get it or not, right?
Yeah.
But some of them aren't. You might get a subcontractor who is ethical, who crosses their T's and dots their I's, does all the things they need to do, and they're working for a subcontractor for whatever reason that might be. And I've seen it. You can get good systems, but more often than not, they're the companies you're going to see getting the dodgy ones. So I don't know. I suppose the consumer education just needs to be, if you are just, you're putting your hand into a lucky dip.
I'd suggest that when you're down to it's you or the cheap version.
Yeah.
Instead of I hate telling people how to suck eggs, but ultimately, rather than try and close the sale, if it's too good to be true, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Go back to them and ask them these 3 questions. And give them 3 killer questions.
Yeah.
Ask them what they're doing to monitor the system. They're going to tell you that they'll give you an app. Well, that's of no use because you're not going to look at the app. Yeah. And once you lose your Wi-Fi connection, you're screwed. So you're not going to have any visibility of it. Ask them if they're going to monitor the system. Ask them if something goes wrong, what happens? And listen carefully to the answer. If they try and fob you off quickly, that's okay, we fix it.
Yeah.
You want to try and understand what process do they have when there is something wrong with the system.
Yeah.
And are they proactively monitoring it? Are they telling you, or are you having to detect it yourself? And then you've got to go through a complaints hotline or send an email or fill out a form. Listen to the answers. Try and feel confident. Ask to speak to their service manager. I bet you
love that one. I love that one. I never thought of that one. It was actually Jake Warner from Penrith Solar Company in New South Wales.
Yep.
He mentioned that to me. You get on the phone, if you're thinking of buying, you give them a call and ask to speak to the service manager.
Yeah.
If they don't have a service manager,
yep,
there's your answer.
Yeah. Yep.
So I love that one.
Yep.
That's a good one.
And then ask for all of the warranty documentation.
Yep.
Everything that's going to come with the system.
Yep.
So that you can have a read of it. And if they can't send you that in a heartbeat, if they say, "Oh no, that's okay, we take care of all that," in the sales stuff, we send it to you, we give it to you on the day of installation.
Yep.
Once again, that's a bad answer because they don't have a proposition, which is, if something goes wrong, this is where we step in, this is what we do to fix it.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
So that's educate the consumer, do it at the point of sale, send them back to your competitor, and then they'll come back to you and they'll say, "Yeah, no, they were terrible answers. Let's do this."
Yeah, for sure. What do you think? So let's just cut to the chase. I've been talking about mandatory inspections forever. I think it should be in every state.
Yep.
I think you I think we believe roughly the same thing, that we want the same outcome. But you think that it's maybe not necessarily. What do you think? Well, have you say. Let's have you say. Because I really want to discuss this with you about just what you think. And
we should be proud of the fact, obviously, that Australia has got very low cost of installed systems and deep penetration of solar in this market.
Yeah, well, it's the lowest in the world, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have to be always, to some extent, protective of that. We've seen waves in the industry.
Yep.
The first wave at the start of the last decade, then around the middle of the decade, there was another big wave. I think we're in a. I actually would suggest that whilst we might be in a little bit of a trough at the moment, I think there's another wave building.
Just wait till people get their power bills, and then it's going to get busy again.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a trough. Yeah, it's coming. It always does.
I think that when you're at the peak of installations, that's when the bad actors enter the industry or scale up their operations to the point that they're no longer sustainable.
Yeah.
So just on that question of mandatory inspections, I think that we should be ramping up inspections, certainly at times when there's lots of volume, lots of new players entering the market.
Yep.
It almost needs to be, as you put your foot on the accelerator as a business, maybe that's the time when a higher percentage of your installations need to be inspected. But 100%, that worries me a little bit, Pat.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, so do you think we overdo it in Victoria? So we do have prescribed inspection, which are required on every job for the sign-off. Do you think that's overkill, or what do you reckon? Do you reckon that's...
If I were running a solar retailer, I had my own in-house installers. We had been running at the same rate for the last 5 years, and we did a great job. We took it seriously. We probably haven't just been in business for 5 years. We might have been in business for 15 years.
Yeah.
Why should I be bearing the cost of a mandatory inspection, on all of my systems? When the guy down the road who's a bit of a dodgy operator, he's only got the same obligation and the same cost.
But if everyone has it, then
yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing. I see you're saying potentially it's an unnecessary cost of business. Is that
that's what worries me? And I will say there is another argument as well, which is, does it give a false sense of security? Because
that's a good point.
During and at the day of commissioning, and connection, is the system, meeting code and doing all the things it should be doing? Yeah, that's great. What about a year later?
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to what you just mentioned before. I think it does give a bit of a false sense of security, and there's no doubt about that. And the evidence of that is we do 100% inspections in Victoria, and yet then on top of that, there's solar Vic audits, which are 5%, whatever they are at, and then CR on top of that, and then we're still finding issues.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a false sense of security, and you're going to have unscrupulous inspectors as well. I was just talking to someone, a fellow inspector yesterday, who's doing some inspections for someone who he sort of knew who's going on holidays, and they're charging their client like bottom dollar. So then when he's gone out and said what his rate was, the clients are like, well, this guy does it for X amount, you're doing it for basically double that. Why should we pay extra? And he's having to justify it all, but the reason is because he's not getting on the roof and he's not even really turning up.
Yeah.
So when we're having these type of operators on the market,
Yeah.
I think that does make it difficult.
Yeah.
So
I also want to caveat my answer to some extent.
Yeah.
Whilst Omnidian is both a commercial and a residential operation in the US, here in Australia we're a residential only operation.
Okay.
When it comes to commercial, I'm a very strong believer that when you engage an EPC to perform this work, you should be having an O&M agreement that underpins that as well. But you should also be having those independent inspections during and post installation to make sure that they have done everything.
So
that they
just getting your QA done or whatever.
Yeah.
I know. That's correct, and I feel like that's probably the job I would probably do if I wasn't an inspector, because I've heard people come up to me going, "Oh, the only reason you want mandatory inspections is so you can grow your business and you can just just dominate the whole market." And I'm like, okay, well, that's not really the reason. Yeah. The reason is because I can see there's an issue here, and I've got a certain set of expertise, which could be used doing something else.
Yeah.
And doing a QA, I've done those sort of QA roles before, and I feel like that's I feel like when you do that QA role, you feel like you're working for the installer a bit more too, and you can work together.
Yeah.
That's another reason I like the model in Victoria, because when we do the inspections, we're actually there in their corner for the installer, helping them get the best result they can. So if they've done something wrong, or even something that's not quite best practice, another set of eyes over it, we can go, look, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
So I look, but then again, I know not everyone and not all the inspectors do their business the same way that I do. No. Not to say mine's the perfect way or anything, but I try. I really want to help my installers too.
One area where we probably agree as well. I mean, it has to be on a risk profile basis, and subcontracting installations. Whilst it's a viable business model, and I think there are good reasons for it. You know, one of the things that's a little bit unique about the Australian industry is just how fragmented we are. We just really don't have those national champions.
No. Massively fragmented.
Yeah.
Hugely. Yeah.
So, you know, for somebody that does want to, you know, they believe that they have found a niche, they have built a good reputation for themselves locally, they do want to expand, you know, obviously the only way to safely do that at the start, rather than going hiring installation crews, is, okay, well, let's do some installations using subbies. It's a point of risk for a business owner.
For sure.
It's probably also a point at which they would welcome the additional cost of mandatory inspections when they first start using subcontractors.
If they want to do the right thing, that's right.
Exactly. And those that don't, well, they're the cowboys, and you know, let's kick them out of the industry.
Okay. Well, we're on the same page with that. Look, I think maybe the space you want to get to is what SolarVic do, right? So they do. I'm pretty sure they risk profile all of their installers.
They do,
and so they'll have a look if it's high risk. Look, I don't know the numbers, so please don't quote me on this. I know it's just sort of roughly this. If you're in the worst 10% of compliance installers, they do something like, I think it's 50 to 60% of the inspections are on those, and they'll target those.
Yeah.
And then there's a middle range and a lower band, and I think that if you're in the best 50% or might be 30%, there's only like 10% of inspections are dedicated to those people.
Yeah.
So that type of thinking you're more in favour of?
It is. I think that's the cost-effective point.
Yeah.
And you know, if you spoke to Stan and the team over there, they would tell you that they got to that point by learning by doing. You know, they didn't start off with the perfect design, and they have tweaked those parameters over the years to get to a point where it is a valuable endorsement, for people that are installing under that program, and it is at risk if you're not doing the right thing. So kudos to them, and they're now introducing on July 1st, I'm going to get the language on this wrong, but
I'll try and help you if I remember.
Yeah, it's the shut-off connection.
For the zero... No, is that not
zero export?
Zero
gen exports,
Yeah, okay.
They're introducing that for a slightly different reason, but the good news about that is that, okay, well, it's another step towards inverters having to start connected and stay connected.
Yep.
I think that this is something that we just really want to embrace as an industry. We've got this incredible capability now to monitor millions of assets remotely.
Yep.
All it takes is a little bit more diligence, a little bit of a higher service level from the solar retailers and the installers on day one. And then spending a little bit of money on operations and maintenance and asset management over the lifetime of that asset. But you're not talking about anything that should be material cost. I think it's money that's well spent. We need this as an industry. If we don't embrace it, then ultimately it gets pushed down through regulation anyway. And it's coming one way or another. The idea of all of these systems being connected, I think we're now at that point.
Yeah, let's be proactive about it. I agree. That's a good point there. All right, well, we're going to go to our second break from our sponsors, and then I still want to, when we come back, still want to have a discussion about. We didn't really cover customer expectations, so I just want to go over that. importance of servicing in solar. So that's very important as well. And then we'll, just before we wrap up, we'll be discussing a couple of little things in industry news this week. So, David, let's have a little bit of a discussion about rising customer demands in solar. And this seems to be something that I've noticed as well. Is this an ongoing trend, you reckon? Is this something you see a fair bit?
I think so. I think that as power prices have gone up, early adopters, even people that only bought a solar system 5 years ago, they want to continue that home electrification journey for the same reasons they always have. They want that independence, they want that control over the price of running their home. But they're also being exposed every year to new technology. If you ask your cab driver, he'll start talking to you about artificial intelligence. So with that comes rising expectations. I think secondly, we're now in a phase, I mentioned those, 40% plus battery attachment rates that some of our clients are talking to us about, and that we're seeing in our asset base itself. As people spend more on a system, they've been promised more in terms of performance and how it's going to help them in their home. They ultimately have higher demands and expectations, even if you haven't been explicit in your sales literature about this. No owner of a business can listen in on every sales call or be at every kitchen table. But ultimately, customers will make assumptions about what they're going to get in this package of services, the product and how it's going to be installed and what's going to happen after installation. They're going to make their own assumptions about that. And sometimes you only find out about that, a year down the track. So, those rising assumptions, rather than argue with your customer about them, it's just better to meet them. It's better to exceed them.
Do you reckon this is just a product of life today? Like you spoke about AI, you spoke about everyone wants things a bit better than they were before. Maybe we're just evolving as a human race. I don't know what it is. Do you think that's just part of that?
Yeah, they're just getting more comfortable with technology. They know how powerful it is. They know how much it can do. But they're also spending more money. They're putting they do a lot of research before they choose somebody who's going to.
That's right.
They're going to sign the contract with. They're putting their trust and their faith in you, and they expect it to be repaid. If you're a supermarket or a bank, not so much, but a solar retailer, they have high demands, high expectations.
Yeah, I do find that too. Even seeing the inspections I go out and do, because I can go out and see these homeowners who've bought systems and they're getting more savvy. There's no doubt about it. Even some of the older ones who you may sort of stereotype as not being as tech savvy, they're like you mentioned before, they got their apps out, or they want to know about the system. They're more interested. Probably a lot to do with power prices increasing. It's been a pretty hot topic. So I agree with that. I think it's certainly been. I've sort of had to sharpen my game up as an inspector and what I say. So I usually can't just go there and, not tell them anything because they're asking me questions. So I've seen it that way.
And we're not talking about first-time owners a lot of the time now.
Yeah, that's right.
So these people have got some experience. Social media allows them to talk and ask questions and get engaged in the community pretty quickly. I feel like the big win, the big opportunity is when you do install one of these systems. You want to have a 10-year relationship with that customer. You want to be available to them when they have a question or a query. You want to be available to them when they're thinking about the upgrade or the next step they're going to take on that home electrification journey, and be their trusted partner for that. Nothing better than that, because Johnny buys from you once, that's great. If they buy from you twice, that's excellent. They're really, going to be open to talking to their friends and their family.
That's right. The referral business. Yeah, most definitely.
I think that's one thing I've noticed. Every solar retailer is different. I really have come to understand how when you peel back a layer, how different all of these businesses are underneath. One thing I've noticed about the most successful businesses is just how much referral business they get. not because they're offering coupons and discounts and money in exchange for leads.
They've done a good job.
Because they've done a good job.
And they enjoy the experience and they're happy to tell their friends and their family about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very good. I'm interested in some of your stats, right? So obviously you see peaks and troughs in the systems that are already out there, the assets, which are already online or maybe dropping offline, whatever they are. When do you find that there's systems that are having a problem? Is there any trends that you know or you've noticed that you're able to share?
Yeah, we've got a lot of data on this.
Yep.
So I might just start with a key point. We think of these things in terms of when is a service ticket created. A service ticket can be created because there is either a suspected fault, a real fault, or just simply a concern on behalf of the homeowner that something could be wrong.
Yep.
We always create a service ticket. The most service tickets get created for assets that were installed less than 12 months ago.
Less than 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's that? Why is that? Tell me, because you would speak to a lot of these customers, or you'd hear from them, or whatever it is.
Yep.
Why do you reckon that is?
So we're proactively identifying a lot of those faults.
Yep.
Because there has been a problem with either the product or the installation.
Or is it because the technology is better now and it's easier to identify that stuff, or is it because...
Well, it's hard for me to say if it's because of that. I mean, certainly inverters are getting better at self-diagnosis. There's no doubt about that. But you need to filter through a lot of noise to find the actual problems.
Yeah.
Looking at, one set of alerts generally won't get it done. But a simple thing, for example, our system, identifies ground faults.
Yep.
If we see a ground fault coinciding with a heavy rainfall event, it has a higher confidence that there's a fault there, and it's one that we have to be aware of. We see ground faults occurring, in the morning dew. That's a different type of a fault and a different type of treatment that is necessary.
So just on that, do you guys manage rainfall data, or you have a look at rainfall data in areas?
We pull in a staggering. I maybe didn't mention this earlier on.
Yeah.
The business back in the US, it's taken venture capital funding to get to the point that it is. It's taken about $100 million in equity investment from our investors to this point in time. So much of that money has been spent on the technology that we have built. So we have 30 data scientists, and coders working for us. They suck in every piece of data that you can possibly imagine from everywhere around the world to help our system to identify the difference between real faults and ones that might be there and ones that are not there. They're a false positive.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I'm getting off topic.
No, that's okay.
First 12 months is when we see the largest number of faults. Then it slowly declines. So you shake out over those first few years.
Yep.
The faulty product, the bad installations, people get comfortable with the system. We generally see a little bit of a peak then again around year 5.
Yep.
We've got a few suspicions as to what might be causing that. We think it's a second wave of product failure, certainly. So some products, power electronics, it burns in okay.
So do you see specific products which fail in clumps?
We do.
You do see that,
yeah. We won't talk too much about that.
We won't mention who they are. No, I'm sure these companies will be working through these issues as well.
They do.
Yeah.
Solar retailers and OEMs are our clients. The OEM clients, they really value the insights that we can give them about.
Yeah, they'd be loving the data that you guys can give them. Yeah. Do you report data to them about their products?
We have different partnership arrangements.
I suppose
where ultimately there is some information exchange occurring. Yeah.
That'd be quite valuable, that information. Data's king, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So we see that second wave around year 5.
Yep.
And then after that, it's a slow, steady decline. So the longer an asset has been installed, the less likely we are to see a service ticket. Would be the general principle. What that means for our business is that we take on when we take on these obligations with a solar retailer, we take on the whole fleet. We don't just take a portion of it. Quite frankly, I'm exposing myself if we do that because, needless to say, they're only going to send us the crappy assets to manage. So we take on the whole fleet of assets, and then we take on all of the new systems that get added to them over time, so we can provide the same level of service regardless of who manufactured the components, who installed the system, when it was installed. It doesn't matter. We're still providing the service to the customer, so that we can.
Do you keep that data about who installed it? Do you guys keep that data?
Yeah, we're data hungry. We'll take everything because everything for us is a predictor of what the two things that really drive my business. How many service tickets do we create and have to manage through to completion?
Yep.
And how many times do we have to send a technician to site? And then what are the costs of those repairs that are recoverable? They're really the three things that drive the profitability of the business. But we're almost akin to an insurance type business.
Yeah, I was thinking that. So would you possibly? I don't know. I'm playing playing around a little bit here, but would you ever see, like you've seen a particular installer who you just get heaps of issues with, and you could basically predict that a system is about to drop offline? Would you have a conversation and say, you might want to keep, this one's going to be...
We do. So we talk to the solar retailers who are using that installer. We have to be a little bit careful. We certainly
of course you would.
We certainly don't blacklist them. We don't share data. But
no, you wouldn't blacklist them. No, but then again, you're providing the service for your customer. So you want to do that in the best way and provide them the best value you can.
And more often than not, it's a training issue. It's they don't quite know how to install and commission this particular type of asset. So we're getting a post installation service call, all those systems are failing what we call our performance verification test. So when we onboard a new asset, it runs through a series of measures to say, okay, this system is working correctly on day one. It's in the green bucket. It's not too difficult to spot the patterns, unfortunately. Where you get this intersection of an OEM and a particular installer, and they just don't know how to do the job properly. That's not somebody who's a bad actor. That's somebody who just needs a bit more training.
They just need to learn. Interesting. That's really interesting stuff. I love that. That's great. I want to see the list of all your dodgy installs and see if they're the ones that I see around. No, clearly not. Okay. No, very good. What do you think? So we speak about service in servicing your systems. Clearly, that's a pretty big part of your organisation and what you do. Now, we've had a discussion about, what other asset would you buy that you wouldn't service? Do you know of any? Would you not service your car? Would you?
I don't think my wife services her car. But no.
But then there's a problem, and you'd be like, okay, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the myths of the industry, isn't it?
We had a conversation yesterday. Where did this possibly come from? Is it because there's no moving parts in solar, and someone decided they would sort of be a good idea to say, you don't need, the rain will clean the panels. You don't have to do anything. You just leave it. It'll last for 25 years or longer, and just set and forget. No worries. How did we fall into that?
No moving parts, set and forget, man. If I could find that guy. It's a funny one because I talked earlier about the evolution of solar retailers, how they start out, they have a small fleet, and it's only when the fleet grows to a certain point they realise they've got a service issue that they need to deal with. I think that just a little bit of common sense, as you say. There's no other object or product that you buy that you don't have some future thought towards, okay, what are my operations and maintenance obligations going to be on this asset? How do they tie to the promises that I've made to the customer, and how am I funding those? Even a Tesla, I know lots of people that are driving a Tesla nowadays, and it's wonderful, much lower maintenance costs, far fewer consumables than in a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle, but not zero.
No, that's right. You still need to keep an eye on it.
And the fascinating thing about a Tesla is it is filled with sensors and monitors, and it talks back to base, on a very regular basis. And if it suspects, something might have gone wrong here, we've all seen plenty of Tesla owners who are, the car is bricked. At the end of the day, it's not going to do anything until this problem is rectified, because it could cause a more expensive or even a dangerous issue to occur if it keeps on operating. So even that very low maintenance asset, it has a different safety net, which is, okay, but if it ever gets into a point where there is a possible risk, it uses those same capabilities, those sensors and those power electronics, to shut down until the problem is correctly addressed. So it's a little bit, we're moving away from a world of calendar-based maintenance of assets towards a world of sensor-based maintenance of assets. When a fault occurs or is likely to occur, that's when you want to step in and perform your maintenance obligations. But that requires, those sensors and that monitoring of that asset to perform that. But we're a mass market company. We like I mentioned earlier, we don't use any hardware. We just take every bit of data that we can get our hands on from the inverter, from the environment, from the homeowner. People ask me sometimes, what happens if it doesn't have any Wi-Fi connected? You can't monitor that asset. I said, well, we can't monitor it proactively, but we'd still have a homeowner with a phone in their hand. They can take photos. They can talk to us. They can listen.
They can read their bill.
They can help us to diagnose a whole bunch of issues before we send a technician to site. Yeah,
they could send you photos of trees from next door.
It's amazing. Steve Springer, operations manager. He's a whiz. He's done a large number of installations himself, and now he's running the operations side of our business. His ability to not only ask the right question, but to train the team as to how to ask the right questions to get to the root cause of a fault. It's just incredible to me. Experience is gold.
Absolutely. Very good. All right. Well, I think we're going to move on to just some industry news for the week. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot this week that I can see. I know we spoke about the federal budget last week, which I sort of gave it a little bit of a kick in a way, which sort of said that there didn't seem to be much in it for small scale. Great if you're into hydrogen, and great if you're into large scale. But we're here talking about stuff behind the meter. So anyway, I don't see there's much in it for us. So hopefully there's some flow-on effect. But anyway, the other one I wanted to mention was there seems to be a little bit of stuff on social media that I've seen, which it doesn't seem to be clear at the moment with your CPD points for accredited installs with SAA as to whether they still have core CPD anymore, because it seems to me that they've got rid of it, and that was my understanding. They used to have core and elective, and you used to have to get 60 core points. Seems to me as if that's gone now. I can't remember where I read that now, and I actually can't find it. I put a little comment in a post on Facebook that I saw on the Cutters page, and I said, I'm pretty sure it's gone, and a few other people agreed with me, but they couldn't find it written anywhere. So just a little shout out to SAA here. If you could clarify that, I might send an email following up, but feel free to reach out to me, and I would be happy to speak about that on the next podcast if you do that. So because I think most people think that you still need your 100 points, but you don't need to worry about whether it's core or elective anymore. They're all basically elective. Yeah, so anyway, that'd be good to clarify that. Don't have a whole heap more. I just wanted to, before we start wrapping up, David, I just wanted to mention we shared the stage in Brisbane. So we'll go back a month or so, whatever it was. How'd you find that event?
It was good.
Solar and Storage Live event.
I mean, I go to all of the events. I like the fact, I think it was the first time running it.
That was the first one, correct.
Yeah, and I think I saw an announcement that they're definitely coming back.
March. They get late March. It's going to be a little bit earlier. I think 27th to 28th of March next year.
Oh, okay. I wonder if that will clash with the Smart Energy Council.
I think the Smart Energy Council is later because I think it might have been early this year for whatever reason, and that's why this Solar and Storage Live was later.
Right.
So I think generally Smart Energy is April, May kind of.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and it was earlier this year. So that's my understanding. I can clarify that in another episode if we need to. But yeah, I'm pretty sure late March for Solar and Storage Live, and I think April or May roughly for Smart Energy.
Yeah. Look, I like the DJ out the front. I thought that was
I
a
mentioned the
fantastic way to start. It just felt like it was a good mood in the room. A little bit of a smaller event.
Yep.
I thought it was a little bit unique. I was not sure if people were going to stick the headphones on to listen to the speakers, but it worked really well.
The old silent disco style.
It was a little bit, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think it worked pretty well, that. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was up there for the 2 days and got to catch up with everybody in Southeast Queensland that I wanted to, and it also helps having a pretty decent pub right across the road. That was
the Pig and Whistle.
Yeah, that was quite popular, I thought, at times.
Yeah,
particularly the second afternoon.
Yeah, was it the second afternoon?
It was by about lunchtime. I think I ran into more people at the Pig and Whistle than I ran into inside the conference. But
I must have missed that because I actually ended up having a very early lunch at the Pig and Whistle with Mark Kavanagh. And then we went back and recorded the episode 5 after that.
Oh boy! Oh, that's a long day.
Yeah. Oh no, it was actually early lunch. It was only an early lunch,
okay.
So we weren't there for the whole day. But it got it. I know it got a little bit. Got a little bit untidy the night before.
Yes, yeah.
A few people doing trivia and a few other things. But anyway, it was pretty tidy considering what other things I've seen at conferences. Yeah. But yeah, it was. I think it was a good event. And looking back on it now, I'll be looking forward to going next year. Yeah. And hopefully it'll be a bit bigger as well.
Yeah.
They had a big marketing budget. Did you notice that? It was like all over. There was a lot of. I reckon I got 20 emails about the event.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that was huge. There was stuff all over social media. And things like the DJ you mentioned. A lot of money, I think, went into it. It'd be interesting to see what All Energy has learnt from that and read exhibitions and see if they, take a leaf out of Terrapin's book and end up copying some of it. Because I thought it was... A lot of the stuff worked really well, and if you do it on a larger scale, like All Energy,
look, I've been going All Energy for a long time, and it's the big daddy. There's no doubt about that. I suppose the timing is pretty good for All Energy. That's probably the real positive that
before the running to Christmas kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, But I did notice at the last All Energy, fewer people from Queensland, fewer people from WA had travelled across. I
did notice that too.
It seemed very Victorian and New South Wales centric. So what would be? I think one event in Brisbane is great. One event in Sydney. One event in Melbourne. I'd love to see one in either WA or South Australia.
Yeah, I think at the moment they've just pretty much got the smaller events. Like they've got Cutters roadshows, those sort of things. Yeah. I think Smart Energy Council do a roadshow as well.
They do.
CC don't do installer nights anymore, which is a little bit of a shame. But they seem to get those smaller events.
Yeah.
And
well, Costa gave me a call the other day and he said, am I going to the... Was it Sundowners drinks in Sydney?
In Sydney?
Yeah. It's just like, I'm not getting on a plane to go to drinks. No. If there was something else, maybe, but...
that's so typical of Costa to say that.
But I think, I understand the point that he was making. So much of what we do is relationship based and getting.
He's the best at it too. He's one.
I'm too old for the Cutters events nowadays. But
you just don't stay too late. That's the key.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting to that stage now as well where. Yeah, by the time it gets to sort of 9 o'clock, I'm like thinking, I've got to get out of here.
Yep.
This is going to get out of control. It's going to ruin my whole All Energy. So I'm wanting to look to exit stage right. Hopefully it'll be another good event this year at All Energy. And before I ask you about your closing remarks, there's a little bit of a cowboy theme in what you mentioned. So we want to get rid of the Cowboys, and you actually also mentioned that you play a bit of footy against the Carrum Cowboys, which play right here at Roy Dore Reserve.
Oh, we are. You might have even heard it on the audio earlier. There's some kids running around on the oval having a kick, and I think I'm playing here in 3 weeks' time in the over 50s competition. Yeah. So if you want to laugh or you want to see football played at half or less pace, then Roy Dore Reserve in 3 weeks' time. I'll be pulling on the boots again and coming up for our latest battle. I play for the Bayside Saints. Mm-hmm. We're sitting second on the ladder at the moment, I think, undefeated so far this season. So hopefully get one over Carrum.
Look, I think you're talking it down a little bit. Like from what I've seen, I've watched the Cowboys play down here a couple of times. Albeit it may have been the over 35s.
Yeah.
Which is it's quite competitive.
Yeah, the 35s is pretty good.
Like I think they may have a bit of an unwritten rule where they don't sort of finish tackles. You know, they don't bring people to the ground and that sort of stuff. People got to go to work the next day, and we've all got a bit of respect for each other. And I'm tipping if you're playing over 50s, it's going to be a little bit more. You're going to be looking after each other a little bit more.
There's no longer the intent or the ability to hurt the opponent. It's most of the injuries are self-inflicted.
It'd still be pretty competitive though, wouldn't it? Like you still...
You enjoy the win and you enjoy a beer after the game. That's it. But a lot of these guys have been playing footy against and in carnivals with each other for a lot of years. So
I think a lot of the time the standard's a lot better in these overage comps. They're a lot better than you might think, and you can't. I don't think people can just, if you got asked to fill in for a game, you couldn't just have not pulled the boots on for 10 years and go, I'll just turn up and I'll be able to dominate.
That's Achilles and all sorts of horrible injuries. It's like going to war. You don't get to know the new guys too early. You want to see them survive a few games before you get to know their name.
That's a great analogy. All right. Okay, well, I'll ask you for some closing comments anyway, Dave, before we wind things up. You got anything you want to leave the show with?
So this industry in Australia kicked off really, 15, maybe even 20 years ago.
Yep.
But it's constantly evolved through that whole time. Picking up on the cowboy theme, one thing that has been present for far too long are the cowboy operators, the guys that are in it for a quick buck, who do lots of volumes, try and capture a section of the market, and then they disappear. This next wave, I'm sure they'll be there. I'm sure they'll emerge, but now is the chance for us to get rid of them. And the only way to do that, don't try and compete with them on price. We have to raise customer expectations around what does buying a solar and storage system mean? What can I expect? And demonstrating to them that you can bring to the fore your capabilities to not only design a system for them, install a system for them, but also operate a system for them. Whilst they might be the owner of the system, they're buying kilowatt hours from you, not kilowatt. So it's critical that somebody is monitoring that system, identifying if there's a problem, and if there is a problem, fixing it, and communicating more than you can possibly imagine with the homeowner through that journey. Because, when something does go wrong, they're going to have a lot of anxiety. They're going to be concerned. There's a risk there to your business that relationship can be damaged. But if you do that, great. You can instead turn that person into an advocate, a passionate advocate for your business and what it is that you've done to help them. So I think this is the next evolution of our business. We're going to get out of the business of slapping solar systems on roofs and selling kilowatts and competing with the cowboys. And we're now in the system of in the time of home electrification, kilowatt hours, and customer lifetime.
I agree pretty much I actually do agree with all of that. And I think that's the next part of our industry, and that's the next phase. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I think because it's such a great industry, being able to bring those customers along for the ride as well, I think it's going to be a really exciting time for everyone. So, look, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate you making the journey out to Carrum, and hopefully you enjoy this little setup we've got here, and going to be interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the events in the future. And thanks very much. Really appreciate you making the journey. So thank you.
Thanks for being on the show. Having us, Pat.
No worries. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the show, everyone. We have a guest next week coming in from interstate. So I won't say too much about that just yet, but I'm really looking forward to them coming in. They're going to be a cracker, I reckon. So thanks very much, and we will do this again on the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. Thank you.